we'll call the meeting to order. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'd like to welcome our residents and viewers to this regular meeting of September 12, 2023. On tonight's agenda, we have 2 public hearings and 1 discussion item. We'll take the public hearings as shown on the agenda. Before we get into the public hearings, we have 1 housekeeping item. That would be the minutes from our regular meeting of August 8, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The minutes are approved. With that, then, we'll move into the public hearings. We'll open both public hearings at this time. Again, as I said, we'll take them in order as shown on the agenda. The first public hearing is an ordinance amendment to Title 10, Chapter 3, Sections 3, 5, and 7 of the City Code. And this deals with administrative requirements for conditional and interim use permits. And Jared, I believe you're going to take this.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. So staff, with the help and direction of legal, is recommending several ordinance amendments to Title 10, Chapter 3, Sections 3, 5, and 7 of the City Code regarding administrative requirements for conditional and interim use permits. So there are 2 main components to this proposed ordinance amendment. The first part of the amendment transfers authority from the Planning Commission to the City Council to approve interim use permits. Currently, the Planning Commission does not have statutory authority to approve or deny interim use permits. Only the City Council can approve them. The existing code currently delegates the approval of interim use permits to the Planning Commission without needing City Council approval. So in order to align with state statute, the proposed ordinance amendment would transfer this duty from the Planning Commission back to the City Council. The Planning Commission would still hold a public hearing and give a recommendation to the City Council. And the second component adds a 6-month time frame before denied conditional or interim use permits can be reapplied for. Staff is recommending adding this time frame to reduce redundancy and repeat applications, save time for staff and decision makers, and allow for the applicant to make significant changes that are needed as a result of the initial denial. So the action requested before you tonight is to recommend the City Council approve the attached ordinance and summary ordinance regarding CUP and IUP administrative requirements.
Thank you, Jared. Well, that's a good one to start out with. This is a public hearing. If anybody in our audience has comments or questions regarding this ordinance amendment, please raise your hand. I didn't think it'd be well talked about, but bring it back to the table. Commissioner Teskey.
I don't have any questions. I think this is it's a good plan. So with that.
Commissioner Winchell.
No, nothing further. I think it makes sense and looks good.
Commissioner Leto.
Looks good. No further questions or comments. Thank you.
Commissioner McAbee.
I don't really have anything either. Looks good.
As far as my tenure on the commission, I don't recall too many interim uses. Only a couple, Jared. Do you know how many are any still valid?
I'll address that. We have if you recall when we amended our home occupation permit a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I do.
5, 6, 7.
Right, I remember.
We changed that process from conditional use permit to an interim use permit. We have approved 2 of them in that time frame. One for a in-home spa, fingernail, but they have now since moved into a actual commercial building in downtown. So that one's no longer active. And the second one was for a 2-chair salon out of a home.
Okay.
Other than that, those are really the only 2 active ones. We did do an IUP for the solar garden at the corner of Denmark and 50, the little solar array that's out there. That was done 10, 12 years ago.
10 or 12, yeah.
So, but those are the only ones that are out there that, in my time here, so.
Okay, and they're still valid,
They are.
okay. Do you know, did the commission ever have statutory authority to grant these, or just?
I guess I don't know that.
I don't either. I never come up. All right.
It was just something that was caught from our legal team when we brought the proposal to add the 6-month period.
Yep.
So I don't know.
All right, and I think the 6 months is a good idea too, in my time, so. All right, Seeing nothing, I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, call the roll, please.
Winchell.
Yes.
Teske.
Yes.
Roddy.
Yes.
Lado.
Yes.
McAbey.
Yes.
In front of the commission then is a recommendation to our city council in regards to ordinance Title 10, Chapter 3, really a modification to the interim use and conditional use permit. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a favorable recommendation to our city council. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Teske.
Yes.
Roddy.
Yes.
Lado.
Yes.
McAbey.
Yes.
Winchell.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We'll move into our second public hearing. This is a conditional use permit for a grocery store within the B1 zoning district. The address is 705 A Street. The applicant is Mr. Sultan Haque. Thank you, sir. Tony, you'll take this.
I will. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission members. Before us tonight is the application for a conditional use permit for a grocery store to be located at 705 A Street. The applicant is Mr. Sultan Haque. He is the owner of Farmington Food and Spice House. This would occupy the southern half of the existing building, which is located at 705 A Street. Again, this would be for a grocery store. The offerings that would be included with this use include meat, frozen fish, dairy product, hollow slaughtered animals, fresh produce, dry foods, canned foods, spices, packed tea, coffee, beverages, and ethnic personal care and beauty product. It would also include a delicatessen to where you could get cold cut meat, sliced cheese sandwiches, heroes, grill items, salad, and fries. So pretty much anything you could get at any of your other grocery stores. The property is zone B1, which is our highway business zoning district, in which grocery stores are a conditional use. The property is guided within our 2040 comprehensive plan for commercial. The property is 1.34 acres in size and is located at the northeast intersection of Larch Street and 8th Street. The site contains a 5,059 square foot office/retail building and a 1,200 square foot building that was the former car wash building when it was the old Oasis Market. The space has historically been used as a convenience store with gas. The current use of at least the southern half of that building is overstock outlet. As part of the convenience store with gas, the underground gas tanks were removed in 2013 as part of cleaning up that site. The northern half of the existing building is currently occupied by JG Legend Inc., which is a tattoo shop. The former car wash building located at the southeast corner of the site is currently being utilized as a car detailing business as well. As far as the interior of the space, Farmington Food and Spice, they're looking to utilize the southern half of the existing building as I had previously mentioned. By renovating the interior, there would be no additions to the building that are proposed with this. Renovated space would be arranged in an open floor concept with shelving in the center of the space, deli in the northwest corner, coolers and freezers along the eastern and southern walls, and then the checkout counter would be along the western wall. As shown on the site plan, the existing bituminous area would be utilized for parking. Largely, the site is blacktop and building. There's very little green space on the site. The site plan does show 23 off-street parking stalls. These are located along the western and southern side of the building and site. The code requires a minimum of 25 stalls based on the proposed uses on the site. 2 additional stalls will be required to be provided on this site. Trash container location is shown in the northeast corner of the site. A screening plan for this container will have to be submitted to and approved by planning staff. Screening can consist of either a 6-foot high privacy fence or masonry walls. And I do want to mention that the northern and eastern side of the site currently does have a above 6-foot high privacy fence in place. So As the commission is aware, there are 6 criteria for approving of a conditional use permit, which I have listed up on the screen for you. Staff does believe that the proposed use meets those 6 criteria. The action that is requested this evening is to approve the requested conditional use permit for the establishment of a grocery store at 705 A Street contingent on the following. Number 1, all necessary building permits are obtained. 2, a sign permit shall be obtained for any exterior signage. 3, a revised site plan shall be submitted to planning staff showing the location of 2 additional stalls on site. A minimum of 25 off-street parking stalls must be provided on site. 4, the parking lot shall be striped in accordance with the revised site plan to be submitted to and approved by planning staff. And number 5, a screening plan for the trash container must be submitted to and approved by planning staff.
Thank you, Tony. Mr. Hawke's with us tonight. Did you have anything to add to the staff report or anything you'd like to mention to the commission? If you do,
Sultan?
can you please come over here?
Please. Thank you.
We don't have a grocery store at this moment in the city, so we are thinking, like if we can provide a grocery store for the Farmington community, and plus, I was thinking if we can bring up to a different, like ethnic, whatever community live in around the Farmington and in the Farmington. So basically, we are thinking completely for Farmington community mainly for this grocery store, and then hopefully, we shall try our best to do the the best possible effort to support the community and how we can like succeed in the grocery, and then I can help the public in our community.
Mr. Hawke, we always like to have our residents and audience members know, what is your timing on building this or converting this?
So, we are planning to do it from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay, that's your hours of operation then?
Yeah.
Okay, how about the timing of opening your business?
We will, as soon as we get the permit, we have done some work, like
Okay.
past, and then, mostly the structure is existing, and before it has been a gas station and grocery store.
Right.
So it has a lot of things, is very similar, and then, we don't have to do. And then, since we have been working on this since last 1 year to plan everything and how to provide, then we have everything equipped so far, like how we can say that, we arrange everything so that we can, it will take us 3 to 6 months.
Okay, 3 to 6
Maximum,
months.
yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Maximum 6 months, but we will try our best. We have a target of 3 months.
Sure, that'd be good. If you could stay available, we're going to open this up to members of the audience, see if they have any questions, either for the commission or for you.
Yes,
All
sure.
right? This is a public hearing. If you have any questions regarding this conditional use, please raise your hand. All right, how about we go through the commission members, and if you have questions afterwards, we'll go through them. Commissioner Winchuttle.
No, I think it's a welcome to the community. I think it's something that's needed and people have expressed that. A couple just general questions. How many employees do you plan to have?
We are thinking at least at the beginning we start, at least like there will be a meat section, the grocery, and then we are thinking to 3 to 5 plus, we will be, putting our time as well as a family member. So, like we will be there, me and my wife, so.
And then as far as the front of the building, Tony, is there any bollards or anything by that door scheduled to be put in there? Or on the plans, I didn't see any, but
As of right now, no, there aren't any. That certainly could be a condition that the commission, there aren't any that are existing now.
yeah. You know, it's always a concern, you get the doors and cars pulling up to your front door and, you know, it's certainly a safety issue, but
Mr. Haque, do you understand Commissioner Windshuttle's question, recommendation? It's for the safety of your employees, for the safety of your customers? You understand what he's asking?
Yeah, I mean, if you can repeat one more time, I would,
So essentially what he's asking is on the western side of the building where you have the drive-in parking,
yeah.
whether or not you'd be amenable to putting maybe bollards or some sort of safety precaution in between the parking stalls and the building. So
Yeah.
to maybe try to stop any rogue vehicles from going into the building, essentially.
Okay.
I guess, and maybe not even the whole western stretch, but by the entrance exit doors there, you know, like have one or two on each side of the door, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can have, as long as we planned accordingly, and then, you know, like we have, I mean, that won't be a big problem for us to provide that thing.
Good, that'd be
For,
great.
we always care for the safety,
Yeah, certainly.
since we are in a business for,
I would recommend placing that as a condition,
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
if you get to that.
Nope, that's it, thank you.
Commissioner Leto?
thank you.
I think it looks really good. I appreciate all the hard work that you've done. You have a really comprehensive business plan as well, so that was great to see that. My question is, do you have an idea where those additional parking spots are going to go, or have we gotten that far yet? Do we have an idea where those might be located?
At this time, no, that hasn't been determined. My guess is it's going to be towards the east side of the site where there's adequate space for it. But that's something they'll have to provide us, and we'll review that internally to make sure circulation and everything works with it. But I do believe there's adequate
Okay, perfect.
area to accommodate that.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner McAbey?
I was also going to ask about the additional parking, but other than that, welcome to the community. There's a big need, a lot of interest in a grocery store here, so I think it looks good.
Thank you, Rebecca. Commissioner Teskey?
I do have one question with regard to the loading dock. Are you intending to use that loading dock?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay.
We do, because we need the loading dock for, you know, like unloading all kind of inventories and other stuff.
When do you expect to take those deliveries? During the day, during the night?
Mostly during the day.
Okay, very good.
So, or in, yeah, mostly during the day.
Sounds good. Well, like the rest of the commission, we would welcome a grocery store in the community, so thank you.
Mr. Haque, will there be any changes in the lighting out there that could affect any neighbors, any direction? Are you going to add any or change any lighting in your parking lot?
We would like to do some spot lighting, so, which will be like sensor. And then, you know, it's not like, what kind of lighting, sir? I mean, you are mentioning about the, is it like for the,
Mostly the parking lot lighting, to see,
Yes.
see if it strays away from, you know, your land and onto others and affects the other property. I don't know if it will or not. I mean, again, it's been a business there for many years, and it's been this type of business without the gas, but
yeah, we do have soffit lighting. And then what we are trying to do, we are trying to add some lighting around it so that, you know, it's gives us enough vision. And plus, you know, we have already installed the cameras and everything, so we might need more lighting, because last couple of months ago, one of the police officer, you know, like we had the night vision cameras, but, you know, there was a car who scratched somebody's car on the neighbor right across the street. So, you know, he requested me to, if I can, you know, like spot that shot. So I gave it to him. So, I mean, you know, like we would like to add adequate lighting, you know, which is enough for the parking spot and, you know,
Right.
helpful for the,
Okay, thank you. Tony, is this, the lighting, is that something the planning staff could review?
Absolutely,
Would you do that?
absolutely.
You know, and we want you to have adequate lighting, but we don't want you to light up the whole neighborhood, you know, that they don't want lit up, so. And Mr. Haque, I'm just going to go through the contingencies that the commission is considering. Sign permit, you know, you'll have to, you know, you'll need to get a permit for that, for any signage. One of the commissioners mentioned that you need 2 additional parking stalls. The staff will help you with that. You also will then need to screen in your trash container in the northeast corner. You understand that,
yes,
right? And then I agree with, and I think it's up to the other commissioners, but I agree with Commissioner Winchell, that you should add some bollards in front of the west entry doors for the safety of your staff, safety of your customers.
yes,
Do you
definitely.
agree, would you agree to all those?
Yes, I
Okay, you
do.
would. All right. I would welcome you to the community. I mean, I think this would be a great addition. We wish you much success.
Yes.
So-
We shall try our best to, you know,
Well, thank you. I mentioned to those in the audience, we'd have another opportunity. Did any questions arise that you haven't at this point? Seeing none? All right. All right, with that, then I'd look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Call the roll, please.
Roddy,
Yes.
Lado,
Yes.
McAbey,
Yes,
Winchell,
Yes.
Teske.
Yes.
In front of the commission, then, is a conditional use permit for the establishment of a grocery store at 705 A Street. We have 6 contingencies that Mr. Hawks agreed to. Is that correct?
yes.
All right. Is there a motion?
a motion to approve.
We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. Is there any more discussion? If not, call the roll, please.
Lado,
Yes.
McAbey,
Yes,
Winchell,
Yes.
Teske,
Yes.
Roddy.
Yes. All right, well, thank you. All right, we'll move into our last item. This is a 2040 comp plan amendment update. Mr. Bernard from Hoisington is here to join us.
I will do a quick introduction.
All right,
As you had mentioned, Chair Roddy, Lance Bernard is with us. He is our consultant working with us from Hoisington Kogler Group on the 2040 Visioning and Comprehensive Plan update. This evening, he is here to provide the commission with an update as to the work that we've completed and where we're currently at and where we're going with this plan. So with that, I will turn it over to Lance.
Well, thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Appreciate the opportunity to give you an update today. Where's the clicker? Oh, there we go.
You'll actually do page up and page down.
Perfect, great. So as Tony mentioned, we want to provide you an update where we are, start to get your thoughts on things that we're starting to, continuing to explore as part of this update process. And really our update process has started early on in really creating that community vision, really trying to better understand how we articulate what the community wants to be over the next 10 to 20 years. That really helps lead us into looking at some of the bigger land use changes or updates to the land use plans. So a lot of our work early on has been better understanding what those desires and aspirations are from the community. So we kicked off this project in May. Early part of the summer, we were really out canvassing the community, better understanding those needs, those wants, and those desires. And now we're really moving into that kind of update phase of the land use plan and really trying to better understand where there may be some tweaks and changes to your 2040 land use plan map. So part of our engagement so far has also been working more closely with some of the larger property owners, better understanding what their thoughts are, what they're trying to plan for, and what they're considering for changes over whether it's near term or long term as well. And then we'll really be working on those bigger updates to the plan, working through that process to get your thoughts and get it through the adoption process later this fall, a little bit into early parts of 2023. So when we kicked off this project, we really wanted to create some excitement. You've probably seen this branding over the last few months of celebrating our past, boldly defining our future. we wanted to create this brand to get people genuinely excited about this. You kind of lose people when you just say, hey, we're going to do a comp plan update. This really helped get some people thinking a little bit more about what we're trying to achieve here and what we want to be over the next 10 to 20 years. So we work closely with staff and communication staff on creating that brand to then really roll out a lot more engagement materials to get people involved. And we did work really closely early on with staff of just how are we going to do this. So working on that branding, making sure we're targeting the right community members, and how do we effectively get out there and get voices and input to us. So there was a lot of kind of online engagement and certainly in-person engagement as well. So we wanted to touch, all spectrums of how people are comfortable and how they want to engage as part of the process. And certainly now working more closely one-on-one with some of the property owners. So we were popping up in the community. We were at a number of festivals, setting up, getting people to stop by, say hi, share their thoughts and ideas. A lot of great participation through those pop-up events. Staff was also out promoting this as well. Yourselves and others were helping kind of pass out flyers and informational material to turn people on to the project website. That really was a good clearinghouse for us to help start to share that information, and really did get a lot of good online engagement input. We were really using a lot of different ways to engage people through interactive maps and surveys on the website. So that was a very useful tool to start to get some community input. As we were starting to kind of unlock different ideas and viewpoints, this was really about understanding those different perspectives. This wasn't about trying to get a scoring system together to say we heard 50 people said this and this is exactly what you have to do. It really was trying to be genuine about understanding what people are thinking about, what makes us bold, where do we want to be in the next 10, 20 years. So we were posing some fun questions to get people to answer that. The online mapping tool was asking people to identify landmarks that you would want to showcase to somebody that would be thinking about moving to the community. Certain things like that really help kind of get people more engaged and unlocking some of those bigger ideas. So a lot of that input really was starting to help us better refine and better define your vision. And the vision statement that's in your current comprehensive plan is quite long. It encapsulates a lot of things. It's been a carryover from previous comprehensive plans. And per your direction, staff's direction, how do we really make this much more strategic? So that's where a lot of that engagement really helped to dial this in and get to a vision statement that was much more meaningful to the community. And so there's a lot of common words that were being thrown out of how people are describing the community and the future of the community. A lot of people are gravitating to that family-friendly environment, the neighborhoods being very connected to where they live in the community, the people they interact with, and then still having that small town feeling that we're still part of this smaller community, but also recognizing that we are growing and changing, but how do we preserve and protect that small town feel while supporting more new growth and supporting some of that development that's coming and happening in the community. Downtown certainly being one of those iconic locations that people really relate to and appreciate and cherish. So another kind of set of quality phrases, kind of spoke a little bit about this and how they're describing the future, but really making sure we invest in quality parks and trails, quality neighborhoods that have an identity that we feel, have a special relationship to, connection to, wanting certain things. It's always opens the door for that wish list. And so it's exciting to hear today a little bit about the business venture of a new grocery store coming in, because that's something we heard a lot from the community. They want to see some more of those commercial uses, which is certainly a hard thing to balance sometimes when you're thinking about how to attract new development and growth in the community. Other things up here, a lot of people really did connect to the natural resources and the natural environment, whether that is along the river or within the kind of more rural kind of outskirts of edges of town. People were appreciative and enjoyed those type of assets and characteristics of the community. So this was kind of we unveiled a lot of this to the city council at a workshop maybe a month ago, and to get their thoughts as well on the big vision statement, the refinement that we've come up with to better translate the community's ideas, the aspirations the community wants to see over the next 10, 20 years. And so I think we were getting a lot of heads up from staff and city council that this is really on the right path, that this new vision statement starts to get there. It starts to get a little bit more strategic and direct on who we want to be. And so I can read that verbatim here. It states that in the city of Farmington, people and neighborhoods are valued, natural resources matter, and businesses and traditions are celebrated. We are bold in pursuing opportunities and investments that support quality and sustainable growth, a vibrant and resilient economy, and a complete and connected community. And so there's a lot you could probably unpack even in that vision statement. And there's a lot of good words in there that help describe the future of Farmington. And we also wanted a little bit further and really better define what some of those key words and phrases mean to the community. And so this is where we've been spending more time with city staff of really better understanding what's in your comprehensive plan when you think about that vision statement and how it translates to different levels of guidance. And if you look at your current comprehensive plan, there is over 150 goals and policy and objective statements. That's a lot to kind of unravel and understand how we use these in a very strategic way. And so we've been working to really funnel this down to be very specific in some guiding principles and policy statements that get very specific at how you're going to move forward in implementing your vision statement. So there was a draft in your packet that starts to show how we've been working through that. And so this is definitely a work in progress, but it is starting to hopefully get to things that are a little bit more direct, provide you better guidance on how to make decisions or where the city's position is on specific topics. So we're starting to organize this by some of those common themes that you see in the vision statement, which are your guiding principles by topic. And then they set the stage for some more specific policies on how you would implement that vision over time. And so this is something you can certainly noodle on a little bit more. There's still a lot in here to kind of digest. We definitely want to get some initial reactions and thoughts to where we're going with this vision statement and how we're trying to simplify your comprehensive plan a little bit more on those plan directives. And without belaboring it too much, I do want to say that part of the update would be bringing this to the forefront of your comprehensive plan. I think right now, as we look through your current comprehensive plan, those goal statements and policy statements are scattered throughout the document, and having them in a more central location, I think, will be a much more user-friendly document. And hopefully then there are some ideas on how you could start to use this as you're looking at planning cases or making recommendations and trying to make a better connection on how those decisions are aligning with your comprehensive plan directions. So I'll pause there for a quick, I'll pause there to see if there's any questions by the board on where we are moving towards with this draft vision statement and guiding principles.
Any questions from the commission at this point? No, I'll just keep going on.
Okay.
It's interesting.
You feeling
so far.
good about the vision statement?
Yeah,
Does it
you know,
help articulate, you think, a little bit better than the paragraph? So we really wanted to get to that first phase of the process, to get to a draft vision statement, some better guidance on where we're going to go over the next 20 years, to then better inform where some of the changes may occur in the land use plan. And that's been really updating the comp plan, is knowing that a lot has changed in the last 5 to 10 years from a development perspective and new development interests in the city. And so we've been working much harder with staff and talking to property owners. So what do you see, what do you want to see to do with your land and your property? There are still a lot of large tract areas that are guided in the current comp plan for agricultural development that are vacant. And so we want to make sure we best reflect some of those changes that they're looking for, but also making sure we do that in a smart way, that it still aligns with a lot of the policies and how we plan for infrastructure and smart development, so we're not we're staging that accordingly. So that's been the heart of our effort here over the last couple of months. As we start to think about where those potential changes are, happening. We also really need to coordinate that with the Metropolitan Council and a lot of the other regional policies that help guide development in a sustainable manner. And so there's going to be a lot more discussions we need to have with the Metropolitan Council if we're looking at amending your comprehensive land use plan map, and how that may impact their population, jobs, and household forecasts. How do these possible changes impact their regional system plans, from water, trails, parks, transportation systems that they help oversee? And how do we best stage for that new development? How does that align with the community staging plans, the regional staging plans, and all the infrastructure that's needed to serve new development in some of these areas? There are certainly other bigger questions we have to ask through that as well with other partners, Dakota County as well, and making sure that we are coordinating any changes with them as well, and if they see any concerns with land use changes, and would that impact their transportation system, or see any concerns with those type of changes. So some of the changes we have started to look at are things that we are not saying are going to happen, but they're things that we're starting to ponder based on the input that we're getting from the community. So we just wanted to walk through some of those areas of potential change that we're still trying to consider, and get some thoughts and ideas on that property. So one in particular is a 40-acre, kind of roughly 40 acres on the southwest corner of Pilot Knob and County Road 50. This area is currently guided for agriculture, and there's some consideration to possibly guide that for commercial use, mixed use commercial, and that would really be fairly in alignment with what else is being planned to the north of County Road 50. Most of that corridor is currently guided for commercial development. This particular quadrant here that is being considered as something that the property owner is starting to explore is, what do we want to do with this corner of the property? Could we potentially do something differently down the road? So could we reflect that as some type of commercial use in our land use plan?
Lance, you had mentioned you had conversations with property owners, and you just stated that the owner here may be considering that. Have you spoken with this group of property owners?
Yeah, with this particular property owner for this parcel, yes.
Okay.
We talked to them one-on-one.
Okay.
And we just opened up the door to those property owners. Are you thinking about anything? We weren't
okay.
proposing any changes. We were trying to really listen to see what they were thinking about.
It would make sense. I just thought it was longer term and a different zoning, so that's good.
Sure, yes. One unique thing with this property, though, it is part of an agricultural preserve program. So that would need to come out of that program, and then there's about an 8-year time window before then you could do something to that property. So as we think about the staging of development and guiding this, it would be more of a 2030, 2040 area for development based on that current agricultural preserve program designation.
Okay.
Same property owner? Yeah. Yes, so same property owner within the larger family there. There is another swath of land east of Flagstaff, just north of 190th Street, to think a little bit more about whether this could be a site for potential residential development. So it would be adjacent to land that is currently guided for residential development right to the east. So that kind of creek area is kind of that dividing area where to the east of that creek is where land is currently guided for residential development. We would be bringing this into a similar land use designation for residential. It's currently guided for agricultural and also is part of the agricultural preservation program.
Is that egg preserve too?
I'm sorry?
It is, okay.
Yes.
There are a number of properties with, I'm sorry. There are a number of properties that are currently in that program that are scheduled to come out and that have already petitioned to be brought out. I don't know off the top if this is one of those, but there are a number of those that process has already started.
All right.
Yeah, this one in particular, the expiration date for that program, I believe, is 2026, 2027. So it's coming up. But with development in trying to stage things accordingly, this would be something we would also see that would be much more long-term, given the fact that some of the land to the east has not developed yet, and there's other areas that are guided for development that makes more sense to occur within the more of a 2030 time horizon. And then a lot of the other kind of properties we're starting to explore was really how do we address some of the land that has recently been brought into the city on the eastern edge of the community. There's some more development pressure on the east edge of the community. Are these areas appropriate to think a little bit more about for a mix of uses? Is that more low density residential to medium density residential uses in these areas? And again, these are very large tracts of land that have been historically guided for agricultural use. There are still a lot of other areas that are guided for residential uses that fall in more near-term time horizons. So these are areas that we would have to think a little bit more long-term of when you could actually get infrastructure out there to serve some of these properties. So again, as we start to think about the staging for these areas, they are probably more 2030 or post 2040 as part of the staging plan.
Lance, is that Highway 3 to the east of that?
Yes, yes.
Is Hoisington, have they been in contact with the state on that road at all? I'd heard there's a planning meeting coming up for the middle of the month,
Okay.
and I'm not sure what it encompasses of any regard, but
That's in regards to the access management plan that we've been working with the state on for better part of 2 years now. So yeah, it's not necessarily part of this particular, but yeah, it will kind of lay out that the plan all the way from 46 all the way down to the southern boundary of
yep, that's what I
Farmington.
said. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I bring that up only because we're starting to look at some of that land, if the timing's right, maybe incorporate the two if you can.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too premature to do any of that.
No, I think if we start to get if these potential changes start to get some more momentum here in the next month, we do want to be able to meet with the roadway agencies, Dakota County, MnDOT. You know, would you have any concerns with this type of development on your county roads or your state roads? So
Yep.
yeah, we definitely we'll be having that coordination with those groups shortly.
And keep in mind with this particular property, access won't be direct to Highway 3.
No, I know, it's gonna be interesting.
But this is part of the area that was brought into the city last year as part of the incorporation of Empire Township into a city. As part of the orderly annexation agreement that we had with them, we basically acquired about 570 some acres. So a lot of what Lance will be talking about from this point forward will be those areas within that annexation area that have been brought in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are some of those additional areas Tony's talking about. Looking at those incorporated areas on the eastern edge, do we want to consider a different land use designation for these properties as they are currently guided for agriculture? Another very long-term, I think, development scenario here, as we think about staging and infrastructure needs, that this would probably fall outside of that 2040 time horizon. Maybe there are some smaller opportunities along the county roads, 72 and 50. Would we want to consider expanding some of the commercial designations along County Road 50 a little bit further to the east? And then think about more residential type uses to the north of County Road 50. So there's a lot of different kind of land use scenarios that we could consider and start to play around with and better understand what the order of magnitude would be for types of development. But these would be ones, again, we would feel that would fall probably more outside of that 2040 time horizon, much more longer term. And I think a lot of that's being driven by just kind of where infrastructure is. So as we look at all of these areas, there are infrastructure needs to serve them by city services. And as we think about re-guiding a lot of these areas that are currently guided for agricultural, Met Council also wants to know then is that going to impact your forecasts that you are projected to grow by so many people, so many homes by 2040? And if you're bringing in and thinking this is going to happen sooner, then there's more detailed conversations with Met Council on how that impacts some of the bigger regional systems, how that impacts the community's forecasts. At this time, the Metropolitan Council doesn't see your forecast changing very much based on what's currently in the comprehensive plan today.
Through 2040.
To 2040.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, yep. And keep in mind, the next round of comprehensive plan updates will be starting probably in the next couple of years, where you're going to be doing the fuller update, addressing possibly new regional policies, new system statements on how the region's changing and evolving. And those, the next round of updates are due 2028. So the city is taking some good steps moving forward and taking some incremental steps to start to think about some of these areas a little bit sooner than later. Maybe one of the other areas and last area that we've been talking more about is just really how do we think about downtown? So right now, downtown is currently guided commercial, and that designation is fairly broad. But do we want to recognize this as more of a mixed-use area where we are supporting some form of residential development within the downtown? Would it be best to have a more specific land use designation for the downtown that talked a little bit more specifically about how this area may change or evolve over time, or things we're trying to preserve and protect within the downtown? So we just started kind of tossing that around. Do we want to entertain that? Is that something that others would be interested in us looking a little bit more closely at in trying to provide a better designation for the downtown area than just guiding it as
Lance,
commercial?
could you expand on that? What, I mean, new residential apartment going in now, you see that construction.
Yeah.
There are some apartments above. What are you thinking, additional or what?
Yeah, yes. So I think everything with your current comprehensive plan, it doesn't necessarily provide very specific language on supporting that mix of use.
Okay.
And it is happening. It's just, do we want to articulate that and make sure it's very written in the comp plan that that's what we are supporting, even though we are supporting
That
it
makes
today.
sense then. All right.
Yep. So, and that's very common, I think, when you look at other comprehensive plans with similar downtowns, they do have a special land use designation to say, this is our downtown district, and this is the type of uses we want to support, and this is the type of mix of uses we're willing to support, that mix of commercial, residential component, and then articulating to some of those values. You know, we want to make sure we preserve the character, we want to preserve and support the history within the downtown. So trying to get a little bit more meat into their comprehensive plan to support that vision for the downtown. So this is just our update to you of kind of where we are, things we're exploring. We're happy to listen, entertain any questions or ideas. So I'll pause there.
Questions by the commission? I know I've asked a couple. Hopefully I didn't take your time. Anything else from, start with Leon, you got anything?
No, my question was regarding the annexation property that came
Yeah.
in, so that was answered, so.
I would like to have the commission really weigh in on the vision, if to get consensus on that, I think would be extremely helpful. That way we know we're going in the right direction. So at a minimum, I would appreciate that if you all would specifically weigh in on that.
Can we go through it sentence by sentence then? The city of Farmington, people and neighborhoods are valued. I mean, that's pretty, I mean, that's just a thing. Natural resources matter, river and others, I'm sure, are ag land, and businesses and traditions are celebrated. Maybe expand on that.
Yeah, a lot of that built off of the input we were hearing about the current core businesses you have in your community. A lot of that being in your downtown. Really being able to celebrate the history of those businesses.
Okay.
And that being agriculture as well, the farming community as well, and the traditions that come with that agricultural community as well. And continuing to celebrate, there's a lot of the due days, continuing to have those type of festivals and the strong business community you have that, is very active in the community.
Okay. And pursuing opportunities and investments to support quality and sustainable growth.
Yes. So a lot of the common themes we were hearing and discussing with the community was wanting to see quality investments and seeing quality investments in our parks, our schools, our businesses, and then continuing to support growth in a sustainable manner. I think most people recognize that Farmington is growing and it's going to continue to grow, but let's make sure we do that in the right way so we don't just let people do whatever they want and let it happen. And I think the good news there is your comprehensive plan has done such a good job of really articulating where the staging is going to happen and how do we best phase development over time. And so those are, again, some of those things where we're still trying to kind of update and tweak as I talked about the land use plan a moment ago.
Okay. A vibrant and resilient economy. I mean, that's hopefully that we have that. And a complete and connected community. Is that having to do with roads, trails? What does that mean?
Yes, it does have some to do with the connections between neighborhoods. How am I safely connected between neighborhoods and the downtown and the business nodes in the community? But also just trying to honor a lot of the comments we were hearing about the neighborhood and how people relate to their neighborhood and the kind of character and identity of those neighborhoods. So we've also started to talk about that within some of the guiding principles is how do we make sure that we are creating those unique neighborhoods that they have some identity and some belonging to. I'll just say I think it's a good vision and a good statement. I think it's also important that we got to realize, the council, the city, everybody involved has to actually do something with this vision statement too. Yeah. The statement that we're bold in pursuing opportunities and investments. Well, have we been bold in the past? Have we not been bold? If you talk to the community, we haven't been bold. So I think
We're
also,
trying to flip that narrative with this is what we're trying to do.
Yep, and I understand and I get it, but I think I just want to iterate that it's important that we actually
Absolutely.
follow through with the statement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but overall, I think it's a good statement. Yeah. Well, and I would kind of echo some of the comments Tony was making about trying to get everybody to weigh in on the vision statement, but even more importantly, how this is starting to structure to get to that, right? How do we define these various phrases in the vision statement? And as you start to look at those common themes, you'll start to see things boil down to being more specific about that element, that key topic, with some more specific statements around these guiding principles and policies. And that's where we feel that having it structured in this manner, you can easily then take this and say, you know what, this is the county's, I'm sorry to say county, it's the city's policy on these type of matters, and this is what we're going to try to adhere to. Apologize if I've been saying county. I was just at a county board meeting, so I'm switching my language.
No, I think it's, go ahead, Rebecca.
No, I was gonna say, I think I like the way that you developed the vision statement by going to the outreach and having, community involvement in it. At least in my opinion, I'm with you when you're talking about the other commission member about actually backing that up, and being bold. I personally like the second half of it a little bit more than the first one, because I think, I would hope it's a given that people in neighborhoods are valued, So I don't know, maybe we could reword that a little bit, but I see what you're trying to do by having that in the beginning and then laying it out throughout the document. I like that.
Michelle, you got anything?
Yeah, again, same comments, and the way it's laid out and structured with the guiding principles and the policies that support that. So it's easy to digest as you kind of go through it and try to take it all in, so.
And I agree. As Tony said, this is kind of the impetus of wanting to change a little bit, to move things in a direction. Our community is a great community. you know, there are some things that I think most or all of us would like to see speed up a little bit, to do, but that hasn't happened. The words are there, now it's gonna be the actions that are gonna create that, and, you know, we got the staff to start, I think, to complete that, and, you know, start it and go through completion, so.
Yeah.
I support this one, you know, as far as the other ones, you know, I could read through them, you know, I got questions on individual ones, but I think I'll hold those, I mean, they're not really pertinent, it's just more of a, can you clarify it for me? 'Cause I don't quite understand some of them, but, you know, I think it's a good, strategy, a good process. Tony, you mentioned our city councils reviewed this, anything that they liked or didn't like?
They reviewed the visioning statement. They haven't necessarily seen this. Basically, what you see for the visioning statement is kind of a revised one that we had brought to them,
Okay,
based on their comments.
good.
So this is something that, yes, they have seen and have generally given us the thumbs up.
Okay. And then Tony or Lance, I'm not sure who, could you give the commission and our viewers, the residents, a little explanation of timing and what's gonna happen next, when that might be?
Yes, so our goal is to have, let me see here. Get to the schedule here. Yeah, so our goal is to get through some of those bigger land use change discussions here through September and October.
Okay,
And then we will be coming back sometime in the fall to talk through some of those bigger changes, that this is what we are recommending in updating your land use plan and other possible elements to your comprehensive plan while integrating revised a vision statement and goals and policies. So then we will be looking for some sort of recommendation by the Planning Commission early part of 2024, where then we would be going through the adoption process, you know, with City Council, February 2024.
Just a question with that. Do we look at any of the other adjacent communities surrounding us and what their land use plan development is? I mean, just looking at Rosemont and Empire and Lakeville and all the development that's happened within, and what they're projecting in the future, do we take any of that into consideration when we're planning?
To some degree, yeah, we are looking at kind of what's happening around Farmington as well. We are really trying to adhere to the population, household, and job forecasts for the community itself, and where do we best plan for those projections. But we are, taking into consideration a lot of other factors as we start to look at how do we best plan for these land uses. And I think a lot of that does come into the staging, right? You know, when is the timing? Because everybody's experiencing some type of development pressure right now. I will add and say that this process also has to go through the Metropolitan Council, so we do need to go through amendment process with them. We've started those early discussions already with them. They know that we're doing this. They know that we're looking at some of these areas for potential changes, and they're already starting to assess that, and we'll be getting some preliminary feedback from Met Council staff to say, you know what, we're okay with that change, but these changes might just be too much for you to take on right now based on your forecasts, based on how our regional system plans are set up. Because there's still a lot of land currently undeveloped that's within your MUSA. So I'm sorry to re-enter a discussion we're already having or belaboring it, but a lot of the areas we are exploring are probably more post 2040.
so any Met Council infrastructure issues probably would circle around MUSA more so than anything else?
I would say so, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Tony, if staff or city administrator feels that it's necessary for the commission and council to have a workshop, we'd certainly be open to that at some point if you feel it's necessary. Just make sure we're on the same page and not going in different directions.
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Chair. Once we get a little further into the land use, Lance and I, we meet every other week to discuss updates. And once we get a little further into the process, if we're finding that there's some more important decisions that need to be made based on the land use from what we're hearing from the Met Council. Certainly it may be appropriate to have both the Plan Commission and City Council at a joint session to discuss some of those larger, more important topics.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. And Lance, I
Yeah.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, we appreciate the time.
Did you have anything else to wrap up with the commission?
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Appreciate the time.
I appreciate it. Yeah, very informative. Anything else from the commission for Lance? If not, was there anything else from the commission? Anything else from staff?
I have nothing, sir.
If not, I'll remind the viewers, our next regular meeting is October 10th. And with that, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.